Hey, this is John Arch, the first generation of Fate's Warning, and you're listening to The Toilet. Keep it metal, my friends.
You're listening to 66.6 FM, Radio TOVH, The Flush.
Now is the time for Toilet Radio. I'm Joe Thrashinkill. With me, I've got 365 Days of Horror. How's it going, man?
I'm going better than you are. You're currently under the weather, aren't you?
I am actually dying. No, I just spent the last week in a third world country without internet at all, very lacking sanitation standards, and I was feeling awesome until I got back to the USA and ate some fried chicken from the Charlotte, North Carolina airport, and since then I have been brutally sick.
It's your welcome back to capitalism right there.
Exactly. The show this week is a little different. Normally we invite people on the show that we either really like their music or we think that they're like-minded individuals and we would have a good time talking to them. And on this week we did neither. Our guest on the show is Robby J of Stuck Mojo, a long-running rap metal band. He is their third vocalist, their most recent one, and he has extremely outspoken right-wing opinions. He caused a bit of controversy over the last few weeks, so we thought we'd get him on the horn and just kind of go through some of these beliefs and look at them, like poke around, see what's, wiggly and gross inside. It turns out most of it is. So if you have no patience for politics, I would recommend going back to our last episode and listening to a lot of music that we really enjoyed. This one, I don't know. What do you think, Jordan?
It's very politics heavy. Obviously, he's very outspoken. We're very outspoken. I will say we really remained pretty civil throughout the whole thing. So kudos to him and to us as well. He has a lot of opinions, and we couldn't get to all of it. It is the show's a little bit longer than we usually do, and there's just stuff we couldn't get into, such as his thoughts on being pro-life, his stance on not raising the minimum wage. We do get to touch on him calling the guys from MetalSucks pedophiles, so we have that too. I look forward to. I don't know. It's a thing that happens. And, we do touch on Stuck Mojo's music as well. But like I said, it's very heavy in politics. So fairly be warned.
Yeah, I will say that it is an entertaining episode, which does not mean the same thing as a good episode. So, yeah, sit back, relax, grab a drink. You're going to need it. I guess, full disclosure, I disagree with pretty much every single thing he says on this show.
I do as well.
Yeah, so here we go, folks. This is your show for the week. You are listening to the Toilet Hell Radio Show, and today we've got a very special guest from Stuck Mojo. We have their frontman, Robby J. Or do you prefer Fontes?
Robby J. yeah. Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us on this episode. We first got in contact because 365 Days of Horror kind of issued a challenge for you to join us on this show, which you accepted. Obviously, we have some disagreements about personal views, but I found that the best way to maybe warm up to each other to break the ice is to do an icebreaker. In which we introduce ourselves and say an interesting thing about ourselves. I can start. My name is Joe, and I'm currently suffering through the worst stomach flu I've ever had. 365, you go next.
How can I compete with that? My name is Jordan, and I ate buffalo mac and cheese hot wings last night, and I'm not suffering what you're suffering through right now.
All right. Well, hey, my name's Robby. And every time I drink a coffee, I get the morning shit. So there, we all have something common.
So now do we do trust falls with each other?
Yeah. I hope you guys are set up. So we've got we've got a lot of questions for you, but I thought we should maybe start off just learning a little bit more about you. How did you come to join Stuck Mojo?
I actually came to join Stuck Mojo after I joined a local rap metal band here in Montreal. And it was the first release I had ever put out with completely original music. So we put out a video for our single, Pour Another Shot, and then the very next day after the video came out, our guitarist in that band, my buddy Dave, he reached out to Rich on Twitter, and then Rich Ward, he actually took the time to see the video. And then later that day, he messaged me on Twitter personally, and he gave me his number and told me to talk to him. I spoke to him on that phone that very night, and then about a month later, I ended up joining the band itself. So that's how it all went down.
That is incredible. That's just being called up to the majors immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When does Mark Wahlberg make the movie of your life?
I don't know. Maybe in a couple of years from now. I still have lots more to do.
Can you give us a little bit more information about yourself? Around what age are you? Are you a family man?
Oh, yeah, I definitely say I'm a family man. I'm 23 years old. Little bit about my personal life. I'm actually engaged to my fiance, and we're going to be getting married this summer, so looking forward to that. Yeah, thank you. I'm originally from Canada, but I'm in the process of immigration, and I'm moving to the States to live there permanently, so I'm just waiting for my green card to arrive, actually. Aside from that, aside from music stuff, if I have any hobbies, I actually like making cocktails and doing a lot of bartending stuff. I actually went to school for that. In terms of my education background, aside from getting into bartending at a later point in my life, I went to college and I actually got a degree in social sciences. But I decided that it wasn't for me, and I didn't want to continue on going to university. I thought it was a waste of time. So I decided to drop out of school, and then I started working full time. And after that, after working for a solid few months, I decided to take all the money I had and invest in my local band. And then it ended up me joining Stuck Mojo because of that. And here I am today, talking to you guys.
So are you still doing your local band as well as Stuck Mojo, or is it just Stuck Mojo all the time?
Right now it's just Stuck Mojo. I actually left the band shortly after I joined Stuck Mojo, just due to personal differences between me and the other band members. I have nothing against the guys. They're all phenomenal guys, great musicians. It just wasn't working out, and I just realized it at the time. So I decided I was just going to focus on my band and my personal relationships, and that was that. So I'm very happy with how everything turned out.
Stuck Mojo has a long history with their previous vocalist Bones, and then briefly with another vocalist, Lord Nelson. Is there any sort of plan for you to try to prevent becoming the Gary Cherone of rap metal?
Yeah, definitely. I think already as is, I think there's a clear difference between Bones and Lord Nelson and I. We're all very different people stylistically and who we are as human beings. I think the way that I'm trying to go about being different is I kind of want to go the Henry Rollins route and be very vocal about my opinions and things, whereas I feel the other two vocalists, they weren't as open outside of their music, just very forward about it through their songs and songwriting. But that's why I decided to start the Rantidote, my own website, so I could have my own media platform to, differentiate myself from those guys and try to build myself up as more of a public persona than Lord Nelson or Bones were.
When would you say that you developed your, because the Rantidote is primarily your blog entries about your views on social issues for the most part. Where would you say that you developed your conservative or rather right-wing views that lead to these entries?
Well, actually, growing up in Montreal, I actually grew up as a pretty, under a Catholic household. So I was pretty conservative for a long while. I'd say even through high school, it was very hard for me to express my views. So I tended to be very, very quiet and to myself and very introverted because of that, because Canada's super liberal. And it's like the second you say something that's off key to everyone else's views, it's like you're kind of an outcast and people just make fun of you and make jokes. And it's very difficult to make friends. But, through time, I'd say towards the end of high school, I wanted to fit in a bit more. So I started hanging out and going to parties with other high school kids, did some underage drinking. And then when I went to college, college is like a liberal cesspool. So it's like to survive, to just pass certain classes, you have to just write about, just follow whatever the teacher feeds you and just regurgitate it. So I'd actually say a couple of years ago, I was actually very liberal. I felt I was on the far left side of things. I was all for these LGBT rights blindly, and I didn't really understand them at the time. And I was just spouting whatever everybody else was telling me. I'm like, yeah, let's just support this, let's just support that. And then as I got older and I left college, I started working on my own. I had to start paying my own bills and taking care of myself, and especially starting a brand new band from the ground up, it makes you realize that, holy shit, there's a lot of responsibility that goes into living and being an adult, and things aren't the way that I thought they were through, my little college bubble. And outside of that, just straying away from all the partying and, just this, poor woe is me bullshit that goes on with being a little angsty teenager. I kind of just shed my, skin from that and grew up a little, and I'm very happy with how things have been going in my life. I just recently moved to Chicago. I'm getting married this summer, so it's I'm in Stuck Mojo. I'm starting my own website now, and I'm doing other business things outside of all that. So it's a lot of fun, but I felt that I needed to have a clear mindset, and to get away from that, I just had to stop surrounding myself with people that just want to party and don't really care about much else.
Interesting. I guess I don't see quite how your views on LGBT issues shift away when you encountered personal responsibility. Could you maybe give me some detail into that?
Well, I'd say before, I used to just think okay, because I believe in freedom and liberty for people. So LGBT causes, I thought they were a positive thing, but now it just seems as the years go by, and I think they genuinely started off well, but now I just feel there's a lot of these people that are part of that community that are just shoving things down people's throats, and it's why? What's going on? For instance, there's, it was on the media where this Christian bakery refused to bake a cake for gay couples, but it's why was that given so much attention? But then it's if you go to a Muslim bakery, they'll do the exact same thing, but the media doesn't talk about that. And I just find it...
Is that actually a thing that's ever happened, though? Has a Muslim bakery ever refused service to...
Yeah. There's videos. I don't know if you're familiar with the conservative Steven Crowder, but he has this platform, and he's actually filmed secret hidden camera footage going into these Muslim bakeries. He went into several, pretended he was a gay man, and they refused to bake wedding cakes, and it's caught on camera.
Is it possible because they recognized Steven Crowder and didn't want to deal with this bullshit?
No, absolutely not. I doubt it. I doubt those people know who he is.
I am familiar with Steven Crowder. My favorite video is the one in which he gets punched in the face at a rally. I wanted to ask you, because you've mentioned your previous band, Hasta la Muerte, was it? I was just reading your blog. You had some thoughts on hip hop. How did you first discover hip hop?
Oh, again, I think I was hanging around with a bunch of liberal-minded people, and there's a lot of this social justice movement stuff going on in hip hop, and always has been. So it was just me meeting friends, and a lot of my cousins listen to hip hop too. And I feel like in the early thousands, mid thousands, when it was kind of, there was guys like 50 Cent and Eminem that were really big. That kind of drew me to it, and it was kind of like very confrontational. I especially liked Eminem's like stance on like being politically incorrect. So that always attracted me. It felt very similar to like a lot of punk bands who just wanted to go against, the norm. I think a lot of hip hop artists are like that, whether I agree with their personal beliefs or not. I think they're very confrontational and aggressive, and it's just really the aggressiveness of the music. I don't think that hardcore and hip hop are actually too apart stylistically. It's a very like alpha male dominated genre. We kind of have to just like at least portray this tough imagery. So that's what drew me into those types of music.
On your blog, you wrote an entry called "Hip Hop is Dead, or Is It?" In which you're bemoaning the current state of rap. And in your words, today's rappers represent the destruction of the self, essentially by glorifying drug usage, objectification of women, and a nihilistic kind of lifestyle. But with your previous band, Hasta la Muerte, you put out Pour Another Shot, the video that got you into Stuck Mojo, which is you and your bandmates smoking and drinking. The song is about celebrating getting wasted and watching strippers. You also have a scantily clad model, dancing suggestively in the video, and your drummer is playing her ass like a drum set. Do you see maybe a bit of hypocrisy in your two views there?
No, because I see it more as like, how Wu-Tang Clan would talk about, cash rules everything around me. My idea behind hip hop is like, tell about these stories, talk about your life, but then don't be afraid to, after when the entertainment and the song is over, go out and like talk against why these things are bad, talk about why poverty and like gang life is a terrible thing. So it's like in the same sense where I got people attracted to our video and the eyes are on me. Now it's like I have the opportunity to be like, you know what? That's how I actually lived my life at that time. And you know what? I was a stupid person when I was doing that. And that's a terrible thing. So I think as long as you learn from your mistakes and there's a lesson to be learned and you tell others about it so that they could potentially not do those things, especially for younger people who are like intrigued and interested in that kind of stuff, you could maybe deter them from being like, you know what? Maybe have fun, but don't go overboard. So I don't think it's a hypocritical thing. And if anything, what we were doing with Pour Another Shot was kind of more of a parody thing, if more than anything else, more along the lines of like Steel Panther. And we were just making fun of, because the inspiration for that video was A$AP Rocky's video for his song Fucking Problems, featuring Drake and Kendrick Lamar and 2 Chainz. And that's basically what the Pour Another Shot video was, at least to me, from my perspective.
Yeah, in the case of Cash Rules Everything Around Me, the song itself features regret over how a couple of these dudes have lived their life to try to make money, and the process of finding themselves and with Wu-Tang being able to be financially successful instead of selling drugs and risking their lives. So the commentary is there in the song itself. It's not an after the fact of we did this and then we wrote about it later that we regretted that. The song itself, Pour Another Shot, lacks the self introspection to put this play into words.
Of course, but then at the same time, you wouldn't also question your favorite death metal bands about their lyrical content. It goes without saying that they're obviously not killing people or digging up corpses late at night. So in the same regard, it's like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. You're totally right. But then I don't think like metal sites such as MetalSucks can accuse me of, somebody who writes about something is exactly like that. I don't think the entertainment you put out is a reflection of who you are as a person. I think your actions outside of what the public knows is a reflection of that. So can you agree with me on that?
I can kind of agree with you on that, because that leads me to my next question. Your latest record, or your first record with Stuck Mojo's latest record is called "Here Come the Infidels," and folks that might not be as familiar with, I guess, American culture, might not be aware of something called an American infidel movement. Is that record related to that at all?
No, I think it was more the way Rich put it was he wanted to take a term that is used as an insult, because a lot of Muslims consider anybody who isn't a Muslim an infidel, and Rich's mythos behind that was to take that word infidel and use it against them, like something to be proud of. Like, all right, yeah, sure, that's exactly what we are. Call us that if you want. It doesn't really have anything to do with the infidel movement going on in the States itself. Yeah.
I mean, Rich might be familiar with the infidel movement among American, the patriot culture, as it were, which is extremely anti-Muslim to the point of violence. Combined with Stuck Mojo's previous record, which featured a song called "Open Season," which was explicitly anti-Muslim in content, I feel like there might be a trend here.
Well, I can't answer anything about Rich's life, so Rich is the one who actually came up with the whole infidels thing, and I wasn't part of Southern Born Killers. So I think that's more of a question directed to Rich. I came into the process and it was like, these are the songs, write them. The "Here Come the Infidels" chorus was actually written afterwards. I had no part in that during the recording process. He did that with Andy Sneap.
Gotcha. One of the songs that you did collaborate on with this latest record, "Rape Whistle," which you've obviously come under a little bit of fire for, in which you're using the term "go get the rape whistle" to decry what you see are censoring objects in society. Where do you stand with that?
Again, with the context of "Rape Whistle," that song was actually written by Rich Ward. Everything in that song is written by Rich, except for the bridge section. It's more of the hardcore punky vibe. But as far as where I stand with that, I agree. And what Rich meant with that song was, people are making issues out of things that aren't issues. And then when it comes to a point, it's kind of like The Boy Who Cried Wolf. It's like I feel we all feel that a bunch of people are crying about things that aren't even problems. Like, for instance, like how going back to the LGBT community, where they're saying there's a lot of problems and they don't have any rights here in the States, yet they don't cry about things that are actually going on in Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia, where gays are beheaded and thrown off buildings. So
do you think that's because they live in America and not Saudi Arabia? I mean, as an American, if I were an LBGT American, which I'm not, if I were, I would be more concerned about the things happening in my country than happening in theocracy and the entire world away. Right.
But our whole point with that is like, you don't really have it so bad anymore, at least. Maybe if it was the 1940s and you were an LGBT person, you'd have it bad. But I don't think there's people getting beaten up on the streets just because they're gay.
Sure they are. Not entirely true. No, that happens all the time. Do you know who Matthew Shepard was?
No, I don't.
He was a gay teenager who was beaten to death just a few years ago. It's common for transgender people to be murdered at a higher rate than pretty much any other group in the United States. And those deaths are often not.
So wait, is this Matthew Shepard? Was he a transgendered person or just a gay person?
No, he was a gay teen.
Okay.
But the rates of violence against LGBT people within the United States is pretty remarkably high, shamefully so, I would say. So while things may be improving in terms of acceptance and rights, there are certainly things to be concerned about if you are especially a gay teen in America. So I don't think that it's such a shameful thing for these people to be advocating for more and more freedom and for basically the right to live the same as you or I.
People still need protection, especially in the United States. We like to think we're in a safe nation, but hate crimes are still on the rise. Anti-Semitism is the highest it's been in years. So that's why, you might think of it as crying or people whining, but there is still a need for safety. And like you say, you care about personal freedom, but also comes with life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And people can't have the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness if they have to worry about their safety walking down the street because they are gay or because they're transgender or because they're a person of color.
All right, great. Yeah, I'm glad you guys brought this up. To add to that, I'd say, yeah, I totally agree. That, it definitely is something that happens. I'm not saying it doesn't. But in terms of more of the rape whistle thing, I'd like to add that it's not really so much about people crying about the physical things that happen to them. I think that is terrible, and that should be something that's spoken about and, should be prevented. But I think what rape whistle is more about is the people who just say things like words that are harmless, that don't, and that come from people who actually don't hurt anybody else physically. And then it's people like criticizing them and shutting them down, like kind of what MetalSucks had done with me. It's like, personally, and if anybody knows me, I don't walk around the streets hurting Muslims or gay people. That's not what I do at all. And I think that's completely wrong and counterproductive to the whole point and message that I'm trying to put across. I think it's more of the people who just want to shut down ideas and people talking. Like, you guys are great. You guys are allowing me to come on your platform so we can freely talk about issues. And maybe we agree, maybe we disagree on things, but at least we're talking, I think that's what's important. And the whole purpose of Rape Whistle was to speak up and stand up for freedom of speech, whether you agree with that speech or not. Because it's not the speech that's safe that needs to be protected. It's the dangerous speech, the speech that, decries government and decries tyranny that needs to be protected. Because if government takes away that right from you, that's how we get Nazi Germany and communist Russia.
So you touched on this before a little bit, but why use the term rape whistle for your single? Do you feel that cheapens the use of actual rape whistles and women's safety in general?
Well, no, because that was the whole point. It's like a lot of people decry people who don't even commit acts of violence. They just decry them for the words that they speak, and that was our whole point to the song. It just reflects these movements that are going on where it's like they're cheapening their whole purpose. If you're just crying about hate crimes that haven't even happened, I think that defeats the whole purpose, and it devalues the crimes that actually do happen to people. So I don't think it cheats. I think it gets our point across pretty clearly.
You're an advocate for free speech. But I guess personally, I don't think that all speech needs to be protected equally, because I think there is value in criticizing government. There is value in criticizing the instruments of power. And I don't see nearly as much value in, say, hate speech against Muslims or gay people or other protected groups, because we're putting, just because we're allowed to say these things doesn't put them on equal merit with each other. So the concept of free speech itself, it's great in theory, but in practice, I've seen in society that it's just gone completely one way and not the other. And it seems like there's a deep polarization happening extremely to the right within a lot of the country. Nationalism and fear of the other is really spreading in a dangerous way, and I feel like what you are doing with your band is contributing to that.
All right. Sorry. I don't think the right is too much of an extreme just by saying words or going to college campuses and speaking. I'd say.
How come right-wing colleges never invite extreme leftists to speak on their campuses? Because I've never seen that happen.
Give us an example.
Bob Jones.
That's a college?
Bob Joe's University, Freedom College, the whole host, Pepperdine. There are many, many, many right-wing schools. As far as I know,
Christian schools as well?
Yeah, Christian schools as well. As far as I know, Baylor University has never invited an avowed socialist to speak to their students, and yet it's expected that a school with a lot of liberal kids should have to sit through Ann Coulter or Milo Yiannopoulos tell them that, hey, maybe brown people should be shipped off and deported to another country. It's
the thing with those people, I'd say, is, well, they're not forcefully coming to the schools and being like, I demand to have a speech here. It's actually the college Republicans, the students, who want them there. So why are we taking away the rights of fellow students? It's not them. It's not like Milo coming up to school and saying, hey, I want to have a speech here and you guys need to listen to me. It's people actually want to hear what he has to say.
I feel like it's trolling, and I think you have to accept the same. It's just trolling. It's in trying to incite hatred on purpose.
I don't think it's inciting hatred, just speaking your mind about things.
Okay. If you don't think that's in any way conceivable that I could speak whatever's on my mind to piss other people off, like that's not a possibility?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You could go ahead, and it's like nobody's in control of anyone else's emotions. How they decide to react to that is on them. What I'm saying is I think it's worse if there's people like leftists who go out at Berkeley and are physically assaulting people wearing masks like Antifa and just hurting people because they don't want to hear other people speaking at a college campus. I think that's worse than somebody saying hurtful things.
You know, one of the hurtful things that
is worse than me saying a derogatory term to you.
I guess one of the things I'd like to bring up is one of the hurtful things.
Wait, hold on. That's my question. Do you think that physical violence is more acceptable than hurtful words?
I think it depends on what those hurtful words are, to be honest with you. If those hurtful words are, we should kill all the Jews, I think physical violence is right and dandy, to be honest with you. Let's just change the subject slightly. You, with the video for Rape Whistle, you made a claim that I would like to discuss with you. And that you claimed that YouTube was freezing the view count on your videos. Essentially saying that after release of the video, within the first 3 days, you got 20,000 views. And then from there, it slowly stopped accumulating views. Now, please tell me why you think that is.
Well, take a perfect example with MetalSucks reposting my video as well. When Asta's video came out, we only had 5,000 views. Then 2 weeks later, MetalSucks had posted it. It had a bunch of views, got up to about 32,000 views in just a couple days after MetalSucks posted it. And when I was talking about Rape Whistle getting freezed, it had accumulated 20,000 views over the course of 3 days. And then it eventually got to 68,000 views, and then it just froze there. And it's been frozen ever since, and right now it's only at 71,000 views, even after a big site like MetalSucks had reposted it. Now, like I said, my video with Asta from an completely unknown band generated over 30,000 views within a day. That video and that article that they posted about me had way more impressions than the Asta video ever did, and yet we only got views up by like 1,000. We're only at 70,000, I believe, right now. You can even look this up right now as we speak. So it's like, if you don't think that there's definitely something going on there with YouTube censoring conservative voices, I think you're only kidding yourself.
There is absolutely no way that YouTube is censoring conservative voices. The most popular videos are like 30-minute clips of dudes wearing masks explaining why libertarianism is fucking awesome. No, the reason why your video count suffered is because there's a recency effect. When a video is new, it's going, and you're pushing it from all channels for promotion, it's going to get a lot of views. Slowly, people will have seen it or decided they're not interested in seeing it, and it's going to cut off from there. That's the way that all internet content works.
Is it possible that people just didn't want to watch the video?
I doubt it. Come on. You're intrigued. You're at least going to leave a comment like all the MetalSucks comment on the Asta video are, like where people are just talking shit. It's not even fans of us on that video that gave us all those views. So it's like, no, I don't. Yeah, I'd agree with you to a certain extent, but at least another 5,000 views. I'm not saying we'd get 1 million views, but if you're going to deny that, like from 68,000, like from day 3, and not even our own fans who got us those views have continued watching the video over the course of days, it's like, come on, that's just not how things work.
Well, the thing is, the video itself is not terribly interesting. You and your dudes are playing in front of a white screen.
No, but I'm saying even if you are a fan of the music, you'll just listen to songs just for the sake of listening to the song.
I don't think.
So it's like, listen, I provided my evidence. I don't. If you disagree,
your evidence is lacking because you're saying that you should have more views because you think you should have more views. That's not really compelling evidence.
No, I'm not saying that because of that. I'm saying there's guys like Jose Mangin, huge radio host. He reposted Rape Whistle after we already got those 68,000 views. They barely went up. He has a huge following. There's also another conservative figure called Chris Lash. He reposted us as well. Again, we minimally went up. Like video views don't go up by the dozen a day from a national act of any kind. And then, like I said, after MetalSucks reposted us, nothing. It stayed the same.
I will say that YouTube does have a censoring issue, but that's more for LGBT content, because recently it came out that these LGBT vloggers and videos were being put into restricted mode, where you had to be over 18 and you had to sign in, and it wasn't available in like watching at schools or libraries and stuff like that. But with that, you actually have to sign in and watch it, and with your video, you don't have that active restriction. So the video's still out there.
You believe that certain videos can be restricted, right?
With the restricted,
by age restriction.
Not with your music video.
Yeah, I don't have to sign into YouTube to watch your video. It's not been age restricted. There's nothing there at all. What would Google have to gain by freezing the video count on your video?
Well, if it's like a message that's against their agenda, especially it's very there's a lot of anti-Muslim imagery in it, and if you look at who the owners of YouTube are, there are a lot of Muslims that are in charge of the company.
So you think the Muslims at YouTube are causing your video to be suppressed? Perhaps. I think that's why they're probably censoring a bunch of LGBT videos as well, because it doesn't fit, their belief system.
Do you think your video has anti-Muslim imagery in it?
It has like jokingly things like you're not supposed to, draw any images of Muhammad, and like there's a bunch of just cartoony things of Muhammad that we put in. So it's not necessarily we're not explicitly offending Muslims, but that in of itself is like apparently offensive to their culture and religion.
So it's offensive, but you put it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to just pose one last thought experiment on this before we move on. YouTube and Google, by extension, because it owns YouTube, is a hyper-capitalist industry. If they think there is money to be made in showing something that a lot of people will look at, they're going to do that, because the primary purpose of that organization is to make money. It's not to spread a liberal message or to suppress the views of someone who might be explosively confrontational, because that's what they want to show. They want to get the clicks. They want to get the advertising revenue. It would be in their best interest if your video was especially controversial to push it further. What I'm saying is that it just didn't happen. Instead, there's just waning awareness for perhaps this video, perhaps for Stuck Mojo in general. I mean, it is a band that's been around since, the early 90s, and it's on its third vocalist. It's possible that there's just not a whole lot of interest in this band continuing.
Fair enough. I'd just say you could look at the previous lyric videos we put out, and over the course of the time frame that they were out, the views consistently went up, even though they weren't as interactive as like an actual music video. So all I'm saying is I don't think that a video can just stop getting a ton of views 4 days after it was released. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying maybe now, the hype would have died down by now. I'd say it would make sense that, it's not getting hundreds or thousands of views every day, but for it to just suddenly stop that quickly, even with our main fan base, watching the video probably every day, I think there's definitely something to look into. That's all I'm saying.
You don't think that your main fan base would have maybe bought the record instead of just watching the YouTube video?
Oh no, they definitely have. But just knowing fans in the past, like when one of your favorite artists puts out a video, you don't just watch it once; you watch it several times. At least as soon as it comes out, and then you'll go back to it too at a later point. That's why there's always a constant hype. Like no matter what new band puts out new music, people are watching it and they're supporting. So I just think even if there is no censorship going on, I think that even with our own fan base, the views would have still went up, and they just haven't.
You've mentioned MetalSucks a number of times. You've got beef with Axl and Vince, the founders of the site, and went so far as to write a blog post entitled "MetalSucks is fake news run by pedophiles." I read the post. Obviously, you're trying to be facetious there, but what you're saying is kind of a little bit, somewhat, possibly libelous. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'd say what they said about me was libelous. They used a bunch of straw man arguments. They took points out of my article, made it sound like I was saying something else, and then accused me, in their own arguments of things that I didn't even say or write. Here, to summarize quickly what the two articles that they criticized me for was about. My transgender article was not about talking shit about transgender people. It was about government enforcing transgender rules onto children who have no idea what they'll end up becoming when they're older. It's like, can you ask a 5-year-old if they're going to be a firefighter when they turn 18? They probably won't. So I don't think that government should be telling kids that, hey, you could decide what gender you want to be, under the age of 18. Especially, and it's going on with little kids who are still in elementary school. I don't think that's right. That's what the transgender article was about. It was basically about government enforcing laws that should be geared more towards adults. When adults have matured and can make those decisions for themselves, that's fine. If you want to be transgender, you're an adult. Go ahead. It's your life. And then, hold on. And then with the other article, which was about abortion, I wasn't outlawing abortion. I still believe that people could get abortions if they want. I just don't think they're morally right. But my whole purpose for that article was I don't think taxpayers should be paying for the health care, and they shouldn't be paying for abortions. That was what that was about again. It was about government enforcing, the funding of organizations like Planned Parenthood. When those organizations make a ton of wealth on their own, they don't need government funding. So I don't think people, especially, I think this affects people who are more religious, like Christians, they shouldn't have to be supporting something they don't believe in through taxes.
I agree, which is why I think that I shouldn't have to pay taxes to support drone warfare in Yemen. That's a big thing that I believe.
I agree.
But we don't get that option. That's not how that works.
We also have the Hyde Amendment, which excludes abortion from comprehensive health care service.
Yeah, taxpayers don't pay $1 towards abortion. It's just that it doesn't happen, ever. You make some claims in these posts, though, that just I will disagree with, and I want to maybe make you aware of some things that you might not have been familiar with before. For example, in your post, Transgenderism, a Disturbing Social Experiment, you write, "Let's face reality. Someone born as a male will always be a man. Someone born as a female will always be a woman. Regardless of how many surgeries a trans person gets, biology can't be defined. Gender is not a social construct. It is in fact defined by the functions of your reproductive organs." Are you familiar with the history of basically transgender people across the world?
No, I'm not, but what does that have to do with my statements? My statements basically stated that somebody who's born a man will never become a woman because they will never have a fully functioning uterus. That was basically
what about
my
women
point.
with hysterectomies?
Yeah, is if my girlfriend is barren,
They
does that
still
mean that
had
she's
it
not a
at
woman?
one point.
If
but
they don't
my
have it
girlfriend's
anymore,
barren.
they're not a woman?
Yeah.
No, that doesn't mean they're not a woman. I'm just saying if you never had that function, you don't have the functions of what a woman was biologically made to do, which is to give birth to children.
See, you are confusing biology and gender, though, and in the history of man, in the days of the beginning of civilization, Mesopotamia, the Sumerians, there were more accepted genders. There was basically the woman who was unable to give birth, the man who was born both a male and a female. This has been something that has been in human history since time, at the very beginning of time, and yet you treat this like it's some kind of new and possibly insidious social experiment by trans kids. You keep, basically in all of your work, you basically keep putting your blame on the most vulnerable people, and I take issue with that. Still there, Robby?
Are you still there? I think we might have lost them.
We had some technical difficulties there. We lost Robby, but he is back on the line now. We apologize. 3 grown men apparently can't work Skype.
I tried hitting it. I tried yelling at it. Nothing worked.
Did he try spitting on it? So we're back on the line. To be honest, I've lost track kind of what we were talking about. 365, do you want to maybe lead in with a new line of questioning?
Yeah, let's talk about something fun. Stuck Mojo has a long history with pro wrestling. I mean, famously, they had their video for Rising with Diamond Dallas Page and Raven and a whole bunch of other wrestlers in it. And even Rich Ward was married to Daphne of WCW and TNA fame. Robby, are you a fan of pro wrestling?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's how I got into music to begin with, yeah.
WWE or other feds as well?
I started, I'm a young kid, so I started watching wrestling like circa 2005. Then I got into watching older wrestling tapes, so I'm into especially the ECW stuff. I like a lot of those old school ECW Rob Van Dam and Sabu matches. But yeah,
it's a lot of tables and barbed wire matches, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, I'm all for that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
Japan is full of the death matches, so if you ever want to go on YouTube, just search like Mick Foley or Cactus Jack death match and some
Gotta
really
get into
insane
that
stuff.
I don't really follow wrestling, and these death matches, do people actually die?
No, they just really, really hurt themselves for the entertainment of like a handful of people in the crowd and weirdos on the internet like us.
Yeah. Guilty as charged.
And with the wrestling connection, members of Stuck Mojo are in the band Fozzy with Chris Jericho. Do you know Chris at all?
I've met Chris once, but I don't personally know him. I don't hang out with him or anything like that.
How do you think Chris Jericho feels about, I guess, the kind of shift that's gone on with Stuck Mojo and with you leading the helm now and being as outspoken as you are?
Well, I can't say what he thinks. I don't talk to the guy, but I can imagine he's kind of like a Joe Rogan-like character where he's just very neutral and open to things. And obviously he's, good buddies with Rich Ward. So you can imagine what Rich says, and I'm sure he's on board with it, and it's like at the end of the day, we just see like any press is good press. And, I think we all essentially believe that people should be allowed to say what they want.
Those two thoughts that you have seem to be extremely connected, though, and that you're upfront about this. You're writing some of these things. You're making these statements, kind of with the intention that it's going to get you in the band attention. And I guess that's kind of what my issue with a lot of right-wing figures, the Ann Coulters and Milo Yiannopoulos of the world, seem to just try to say the most controversial thing possible in order to gain attention for their own brand, number one, and number two, if somebody is going to be a victim of that speech, it doesn't seem to matter too much to them. It's all in the process of inflating their own worth. So do you see what I'm saying here, what my concern is with a lot of things thrown under the guise of free speech, that it seems like it's self-serving in a way that is very cruel to a lot of people?
Well, I think essentially if you want to be a public figure, like even you guys, I think if you're putting yourselves out there in a place, in a world where you're free to be criticized by everyone else, and you have your own platform and you say the things that you say, and it might offend other people, I I think anyone who's a public figure is guilty of that, whether they espout, conservative views or like say controversial things. I think it's all to get attention, to help everyone develop their own brand. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think guys like the Rolling Stones did a bunch of things back in the day, or Iggy Pop said things that they probably don't even believe in, just for shock value. Like guys like Marilyn Manson, take him for example, from the 90s.
I guess, yeah, there are examples of people doing that. In the case of, our brand, if you want to call it that, is that we kind of do what we personally feel is right, and nothing is in service of promotion beyond that. The most controversial statement that I've ever made in this public forum is probably that I think Ozzy's solo material is far better than anything he ever did with Black Sabbath.
Maybe so. Maybe
you
so.
took a lot of heat for that.
I did, but I mean, what I'm trying to say here is that we do this because we love the music that we listen to, and we want to make this, I guess, to use a cliche, an inclusive place for people who are music fans to be able to listen to and enjoy making fun of music in a lighthearted way. I have no interest in pushing people's buttons and victimizing others just to get us a few more clicks or to get my name out there. That's not how the Toilet of Hell operates, and that's not how it ever will. So I understand the need for self-promotion and the need to kind of get your name out there, but never at the expense of an innocent party.
Well, I wouldn't say you guys don't do that. You guys wrote about me, for instance, and like guys like MetalSucks, they do the same. They criticize other people. They bash them. You mentioned earlier that you thought I said libelous statements against them, but truth is they did the same for me. And it's like, I could probably take them up to court. And then I had accused them of things. I messaged them several times and there was no response. So then a lot of times in situations like that, if you accuse somebody of something and they have no response to it, then that, in a lot of cases, it's like, well, maybe they're just admitting to what they're guilty of.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I believe several of the guys at MetalSucks have law degrees and were practicing lawyers at some point. I probably wouldn't try to push those guys' buttons. But
well, no one's untouchable, so.
That's fair, but there is a marked difference between your statement, just this plain statement, MetalSucks is fake news run by pedophiles, versus what they did, which was making fun of you, versus what we did was also making fun of you, because this was a reaction to your work, and that your work was intentionally inflammatory. And we took the opportunity, reading that, seeing it, to call it out for what it is, intentionally inflammatory and incorrect.
Well, listen, I thought what you guys did was actually funny. I thought it was funny in the way, like, crass humor type of funny, how South Park is funny. So I wasn't even offended by what you guys said, and I wasn't even mad what you guys wrote. I actually saw the humor, and I'm like, yeah, I could see, I'm like a pretty self-aware guy. I can make fun of myself, and like, things like that are funny. Or like when people just tell me like, oh, you're in a rap metal band, how can you take yourself seriously? And then it's like, yeah, I get it. I get why you could say that and why you'd say that. But then in terms of like what MetalSucks, I thought that they were more they were trying to like assassinate my character more so than being funny. There wasn't really anything funny about it. It was just like, these guys are this is the bad guy. You need to like witch hunt him and burn him to the stake. You need to destroy this guy's career type of thing. Whereas what you guys did, I thought there was, justified humor in it. And I'd say the same thing I said. I think, if anything, my jokes were funny. A bunch of people messaged me personally. Even other journalists came up to me and they personally messaged me and said, that was hilarious. I never saw anybody do that to those guys. That was really funny. So, it all comes down to perspective when it comes to something like humor or what we perceive as good art and what's funny and what isn't. That's
fair to a point. In that humor is entirely subjective, art is subjective. But in the case of things like Rape Whistle, when you're intentionally putting a clear political statement in your art, it becomes less subjective. It becomes more objective when you're saying, this is how I feel about it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I also think that art was always meant to, you know, question beliefs and, you know, push boundaries and push society. That's why, like, you know, I'll take Marilyn Manson as like a perfect example of that. He took like imagery to like an extreme level, and like he said a bunch of things that's like, does he actually believe that? Does he actually like that? Like he's like kind of crazy. But now it seems like in today's climate, it's like you could just say something like, oh, I don't think Muslims should throw gays off of buildings, and it's like, oh, you're an Islamophobe, something to that extent. And it's like, well, no, don't you agree with me? And I feel like a lot of my points are just really based on common sense and just looking at things through both sides. Because like I said, I told you guys, like, I was a super liberal guy, so all these arguments that I'm against right now and that I speak from a conservative point of view, it comes from a place where I lived in a very liberal world. Like, I'm from Montreal. There's a whole, you know, part of the city which is like that caters to the gay community. It's the gay village. It's like I lived and grew up near there, so it's like I'm very familiar with a bunch of these social justice, you know, movements, so to speak.
I'm going to take umbrage with your example, saying that, for example, I don't think Muslims should be able to throw gays off roofs. It is what is, again, an intentionally inflammatory example. That's like saying, well, I'm not saying that I'm anti-Semitic. I'm just saying that I think it's bad that all Jews eat their babies, because it's based in just barely anything. And instead of saying like, this is bad, you're implying behavior on the part of an entire group of people that doesn't necessarily exist. Are there like extreme homophobic people within like theocracies like Saudi Arabia, especially? I don't have anything good to say about Saudi Arabia, but that's an extreme example. I mean, you're painting the entire culture that people who live all throughout the world who are more peaceful with the same brush stroke as one extreme theocracy. So it's a little bit disconcerting for that to be the example, because yes, it's rooted in common sense. Of course, I don't want violence on the part, on these poor people by another group of people, but you're also pushing forward an agenda with it. If you don't realize it, or if you do.
Oh no, absolutely, I definitely am. I think if anything, I'm just a pushback to what's going on, and I just feel there's too many. There probably wouldn't have been a spot for me in this world had guys like Corey Taylor not been so vocal about their politics. But I felt compelled by these guys constantly talking about politics and bringing politics into music when their bands aren't political at all. They don't really say anything political or overtly political in their songs, yet they keep talking about it. And I felt compelled, coming from a band that is very political, has always been staunchly conservative, I felt compelled to take it further and try to put myself into the world of metal and the conservative world as well, the world of politics, and using two separate outlets. But because I am a metal musician, the metal world is paying more attention to what I'm saying outside of my music than the political world is.
Do you feel like there might be some kind of, cognitive dissonance with extreme conservative ideology and hip-hop? Oh, definitely there is. But then at the same time, I feel a lot of the problems that a lot of these hip-hop artists are talking about are because they don't follow, more of like a conservative mindset. It's these problems like a lot of black people being on welfare. I think that's a problem. I don't think that's something that should be encouraged. I think we should allow these people to take it away from them and let them be the best that they can possibly be, and just put them in the workforce and work for their money. So
I think inevitably.
I just want to unpack this. Taking away welfare and having people fend for themselves in the free market. That's your suggestion.
I think when your back is against the wall and you really want to survive, you will do whatever it takes to make sure you're all right.
Let me go ahead and pose this as a suggestion as well, because you've taken umbrage with a lot of rap music being about, say, dealing drugs. Would that not be your back against the wall, not being able to provide for your family? You would resort to extra legal concerns to try to make money because you're in a failed system that does not allow you to do otherwise?
Well, I don't think the system's failed, but if somebody takes that approach, I don't condone that. What I mean by doing whatever it takes to get yourself out there within the means of the legal system, and you're not hurting anybody. I say, for me, it's like, it doesn't matter what somebody believes in or what they think. I think the line gets crossed once somebody takes their actions and is physically like imposing on somebody else's life, whether it's through, taxes or physically, like getting in somebody's face and physically harming them. I think that's way worse. Again, I keep stressing it over the course of this podcast. I think it's way worse than words that are never personally acted upon by a certain individual.
I don't want to leave this example of poverty in the African-American community behind just yet, but are you also implying that taxation is theft?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think personally, I believe that kind of have more of a libertarian mindset when it comes to politics, that government should only be covering the basics, like the basis of things like ambulances, firefighters, police officers, judges, lawyers, the courts.
Question: how the fuck do you pay for those things?
Yeah, through taxes. That's what I'm saying. The only thing that I would accept taxes for are those things. But anything else, it's like, I feel they're just robbing us.
Classical libertarian philosophy also implies that drugs should be legalized or at least decriminalized. How do you feel about that?
I think that would help. I don't even think government should be subsidizing drugs, because I feel, there's a bunch of people out there who have been running drugs for years, and it's like, if you gave them a chance to legitimize themselves, perhaps there'd be less violence, because instead of having to hide in the shadows, they'd be able to open up a store and just run things themselves. So I don't have a problem with drugs being legalized.
All right. Well, we are going to basically have to agree to disagree on a whole hell of a lot of things today. But we are almost out of time. Jordan, is there anything that you wanted to bring up before we start packing it up?
I think we touched on a lot here, and I do want to say thank you for coming onto our show, and also thank you for reading our post and seeing the humor in it. That's the whole point of video breakdowns, is to make people laugh. So I do appreciate you seeing that, and not getting mad about it. So I do appreciate that. And
Oh no, absolutely not. I'm happy you guys invited me here. I had a hell of a great time talking to you guys. And that's what I'm here for. Like, even if we end up disagreeing on things at the end of the day, I just want to, my whole purpose is just to get involved and be active in like having these discussions. I'd rather talk about this than small talk, than talking to people about the weather. I'd rather disagree with you at the end of the day, but we leave the conversation knowing like, hey, like, you made me think, or you guys made me think. So I think that's my whole purpose in doing anything I do. Like you guys said, you do what you do because you love it. And I do music and I do this because I love writing. I love politics. I love talking to people, and I love making music. And that's what I'm here for.
What do you think your next post on the Rantidote is going to be about?
Oh, well, I know what it's going to be about, but you guys are going to have to wait and see.
Alrighty, folks. Robby J. Fonts, vocalist of Stuck Mojo, thank you for coming by and talking with us.
Hell yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Together we're a winning team.
You're listening to 66.6 FM. Radio TOVH. The Flush.